Hello the internet and welcome back to my channel. As my channel has recently gained some attention, I've been approached by a couple of companies asking me to review some of the products. Now I've been thinking a lot about that because I don't want to turn this channel into a commercial channel, and most importantly, I don't want to do any paid sponsored reviews. That's the last thing I want to do. But to be honest, as those companies were giving me some items for free, I also thought, well, you know what, maybe I can be fair with my viewers and also get something for my workshop here. Today I've been approached by a company called Kaiweets, and I've got a multimeter to show you today. I've also have a small 130 pieces screwdriver kit. Let's call it that way. Let me be very clear on this. This is technically a paid review because obviously Kaiweets said I don't need to return these items. But before agreeing with Kaiweets to review these items, I have been 100% clear that this review is going to be absolutely honest and unbiased. So what you're going to hear today, you'll have to trust me on this, is my opinion, whether it's good or bad, whether then Kaiweets likes it or not. Sorry for them, or good for them if it's a good review. I'm going to compare the multimeter with my trusted Fluke 117, which is the multimeter I love and I use all the time. Also, I'd like to compare it to my other multimeter, which is an X-Tech EX470A, which is like kind of a mid-range multimeter. And then I have this, whatever this is. This is like 25 years old. I bought it when I was a teenager, I think. Maybe they're more than 25 years, but anyways. And I guess this is what you can buy today from Amazon at the very low price. So let's crack on and let me show you what I think about these items. Now, as I started, let me explain you what I intend to do with this review. Now, I see lots of reviews on YouTube already, so I don't want to spend time showing you comparison between like 4 different multimeters. It's going to take forever. And honestly, I don't really have calibrated equipment to compare each one of these multimeter against to. So when it comes to accuracy of the Kaiweets, I will leave you to a review I found online from Deafbones Electronic Repair. I'm going to put a link down below. I find that review excellent. The chap on the video is using quite expensive, I'd like to say, calibrated equipment to test the accuracy of this little unit. Now, spoiler alert, yes, the Kaiweets seems to be an accurate device, at least the one that he had. Now, the first point I'd like to make is to place this item in a price range. Now, it would be unfair to compare these two units and say, well, this is better, because this is a £50 multimeter. The Kaiweets is a £50 multimeter. The Fluke 117, thanks to the recent world events, can't be found no less than £220. So it would be incredibly unfair to compare the Fluke with the Kaiweets. I mean, clearly you would expect the Fluke to be more expensive. Even my X-Tech, it's now a £140 multimeter. So that's kind of in between, just below the Fluke. Now, this one, to be honest, I do not know. I'm assuming it's something that you can buy with £20-30. Again, it's many years old. So I'm assuming that this is placed like here in terms of pricing. Okay, so let's assume this is like a £20 Amazon multimeter. That's £50, 140 and 220. Now, the first thing that you can immediately notice with the Kaiweets is the size. It comes with a semi-rigid bag, or case actually. I have one myself for the 117, but it didn't come with the multimeter, so I had to buy this off-the-shelf unit. It does work nicely, but obviously there's a lot of wasted space inside because obviously it's not custom made, and you can see that obviously, especially if you're traveling, the space is a concern. Clearly having a small Kaiweets multimeter definitely would help. Now let's open up the case, and inside you will find the multimeter itself, a set of temperature probes, and 2 sets of battery. One is inside the unit and one is spares, and obviously there's a user manual which is in good English. If you compare the Kaiweets with the average multimeter, the Fluke, to be honest, is fairly is smaller than my X-Tech. So let's compare it to the X-Tech, for example. I mean, you can clearly see it's a much smaller unit. So again, if space is a concern, this is definitely an advantage. Now, one thing that is immediately obvious with this unit is that it doesn't have the familiar rotary selector as any other multimeter. Whether that's an advantage or not, we'll discuss that in a second. It comes with a screen. This is not like an LCD screen. It's actually the 7 segments LCD screens. It's a big screen rather than a smaller one. Now, to power up, you have to hold this button here at the top, which is my first, I would call it, complaint about this unit. I'll tell you why. Now, again, here I'm using the Fluke as a reference, but the rotary selector is available on any multimeter. Now, if I need to turn on my Fluke here, I just need one hand, and it's on. Now, if I need to turn on the Kaiweets, I can still do with a hand. I'll have to hold it, because obviously if I push this one, it slides, so I'll have to hold on the on-off button here. It's not the end of the world, but it's that kind of slightly inconvenience that makes me prefer the rotary selector. I thought I wouldn't like the screen, but it's actually very readable. I didn't test it outdoor in daylight, because obviously this will come up with quite a lot of reflections, but to be fair, even a normal multimeter will have the same reflections. It is very readable. I can see, at least on camera, it looks dimmer than it is in reality. It is very, very clear. I totally like it. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. Now, another peculiarity of this model is that the probe connectors are here at the bottom. It's not a problem per se, but it comes with a little disadvantage. Let me show you what I mean. So the disadvantage is that once you have the probes connected here, you can't really store the unit with the probes attached. You'll have to remove them. Now, when you turn this on, the unit goes into an automatic mode. Now, I'm not even gonna talk about this automatic mode. This is a multimeter, okay? We don't need an automatic mode. I'm sorry for saying that. If I'm using a multimeter, I know what I'm going to measure. I don't need any electronics to guess what I'm going to do, because obviously then there's an element of error which can happen when the multimeter will think that I want to measure a voltage and actually I want to measure something else. So I'll totally ignore the automatic mode. The button labeled auto function allows you to basically switch away from the automatic mode, and then you can cycle through all these options here. This is a fairly comprehensive meter from what I can see, because obviously it's reading the usual suspects, but it also reads capacitance, microvolts, frequency, temperatures. It features an NCV, which is a non-contact voltage reading. And finally, you have your reading of currents in amps and milliamps, both DC and AC. The unit is normally showing the room temperature, which there must be a temperature sensor inside this unit. Once you plug the external temperature probes, it will read the external temperature. So far so good. It's a nice little unit. Again, let's always keep in mind the price of this thing, which is £50. It does feel solid, sturdy. I really like the way it feels. When it comes to the big screen, I'm not a fan of it for a very simple reason. I have a feeling this will get scratched fairly easily. As you can see, it's the whole front panel is a big screen, or it's a big glossy panel anyways. As much as the screen is recessed and protected by this little rubber case, I guess that this will probably get pretty scratched over a certain period of time. Now, let me get to one thing that I think I don't like about this unit, and it's the lack of the rotary selection, as you might have already imagined. But let me show you why I prefer the rotary selector. So let's switch this off, just to start from a same point. And again, let me imagine I want to read DC voltage with my Fluke. I'm ready. I can take a measurement. Now with Kaiweets, first of all, I need to switch it on from here. Then I have to tap on the auto function once to move to the voltage selection. It defaults on DC. If I decided to read AC instead, I think is cell for selection, and it cycles between DC and AC. Fair enough, not the end of the world, you would say. I'm sure some of you now are saying, Tony, what are you talking about? It's just waste of time. Bear with me for a second. Okay. Now let me say I want to read some resistance. So on my Fluke, I just click twice, 2, and I'm done. On the Kaiweets, it's even more simple. I just click this once, and I'm ready to read resistance. So fantastic, that's great. Okay, same thing. Actually, probably this is faster. Okay, now I'm done with my resistance thing. I want to go back and read some voltage again on the Fluke. Ready on the Kaiweets. and that honestly, I don't know, it blows my mind a bit because it's not exactly the fastest way. Now, there is a little shortcut, to be honest, to be fair, with Kaiweets. When you realize that you have to cycle through the whole thing, rather, if I need to go back to voltage, instead of clicking this thing 11 times, what I can do, I can hold it to enable the automatic feature. Now, the automatic feature happens to be basically the first one of the list. So if I then click it again, it goes on voltage reading. So there is a little bit of a shortcut. Still, honestly, I really like the rotary selector. Now, let me get to something a bit more serious, to be honest. So the Kaiweets comes with these probes. These are not particularly fancy. The cable here is not made of silicon, so it's not very flexible, but it's fair enough. Again, we're talking about a 50 pounds unit. I don't care about how this feels. Let me switch the multimeter to continuity mode. Let me show you. Yes, I did clean this last week. I honestly, I don't want to clean them again now. This should work. As you can see, they don't do a great content. Obviously, if I really apply a lots of pressure, they do work, but that's not the way they're supposed to work. So, unfortunately, I deem these probes as not fit for purpose. And it's a shame, to be honest, because this is how much money would have cost Kaiweets to enclose two good quality, well, at least from the metal point of view, probes in this thing. Like an extra £1? I do not know, but the thing is, if you ever think of buying this unit, just bear in mind that you have to buy a new set of probes. I have got in touch with Kaiweets. I reported this. Kaiweets very kindly acknowledged the problem. They said they would forward this to product development, but they didn't really offer a solution. So I've seen this on other reviews. It's a shame. Again, it would have been a much better review with working probes. So in order to continue the review, what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug my Fluke probes onto the Kaiweets. So please bear in mind that the rest of the review is going to be using Fluke probes. They do what probes are supposed to do. The next thing I've noticed, which I see, it's a little test that many reviewers are doing, including Dave Jones, which I feel is very relevant, is how fast the continuity is. From what I can see, there are a couple of types of continuity logic within this multimeters. Let me show you what I mean. So, for example, the way the Fluke behaves with the continuity is that even the smallest amount of contact between the probes results into like a minimum beep of, say, half a second. Now, other multimeters like the X-Tech or even my very old one here, they behave, I call it the analog way. So any continuity detected by the instrument results into a very short beep. Let me show you what I mean. The Kaiweets is using the Fluke approach, which is great. So even if you have a very short contact, you have a solid beep, which is great. Unfortunately, there's a little problem. Again, going back on the Fluke, it doesn't matter how instantaneous the continuity is, I always get a beep. Unfortunately, the Kaiweets is not as fast. So I have to slow down quite a lot. This is not great. So basically, the unit is just not sensing a short, basically, which is not great. Again, I guess continuity is one of the functions that you use in most, and I really need to know when there is a short. So this is unfortunately, I would say it's kind of a basic issue with the unit. And again, please remember, these are genuine Fluke probes. Am I happy with that? No. I feel, again, the probes, you can replace them, but this one is just by design. I have to say, I'm not comparing apples with apples. That being said, now, when it comes to everything else, I really like this little unit. As I said, I don't want to make measurements comparisons here because I don't have calibrated equipment to compare against. However, I'd like to see how the Kaiweets compare with the Fluke in terms of speed. I've always found the Fluke much snappier than my X-Tech, so I'm curious to see what the Kaiweets can do. Here I have my power supply set to 12 volts. Both Flukes and Kaiweets negative probes are connected together. And I'm going to connect the positive of both meters simultaneously. So here we go, in 3, 2, 1, go. Well, that's not bad at all. The Fluke is a bit faster, but not by much. Let's try this again. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh wow, this time the Kaiweets is the same speed of the Flukes. Well, that's very good indeed. I'm impressed. For my next test, I'd like to take a capacitance measure. I know that even my multimeters are not too good at that. My Fluke, I never considered my Fluke to be extremely good at that. I got a 1000 microfarad capacitor. Let's take a reading with the Fluke. In 3, 2, 1, go. It's about 3 seconds. I got 1037, which then stabilizes to 25. Okay, so again, let's short out the legs here and let's try with the Kaiweets. 3, 2, 1, go. It's about 6 seconds if I measured that, if I counted right, and the value is reasonable, to be honest. Now, just out of curiosity, shall we give the X-Tech a go? Again, the X-Tech is really not my favorite multimeter, but I'm just curious. 3, 2, 1, go. It's not reading anything. Okay. The X-Tech is refusing to read it. I have replaced the batteries in all these multimeters before starting this review, so, to be fair with all of them. To be honest, as a little side review, don't buy X-Tech products. I was incredibly disappointed by this meter and also incredibly disappointed by the customer service. Because when I approached them with some concerns I had about this meter, they didn't treat me very well. This thing is not cheap. How much is it? It's now £140. Just buy the Kaiweets. Right, my next test is going to be some resistance reading. And for whatever reason, I'm sure there's a good electronic reason behind it. I've always noticed multimeters struggle with low resistance. Now I have a 4.8 ohm resistor, which I have connected to at the end of this crocodile lead for convenience. I'm now testing using the X-Tech, which is set on auto range. I will leave them all on auto range. So 3, 2, 1, go. Takes about 4 or 5 seconds to get a reading, and it's kind of stable. 5.1, 5.4. Okay. Now let's see what the Fluke does. Same resistance, same leads, and same probes, by the way. So 3, 2, 1, go. 1 second, and you get 5.1, which doesn't change. You see what I mean? Don't buy X-Tech. It's horrendous. Now it's time of the star of the episode. So let's move to resistant mode. And again, I'll leave it in auto range. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh wow, this is even faster than the Fluke. But he gave me a reading, but then it took another second or so to just give me the final reading. So let's try this again. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, now it's just straight to that one. Was that in memory or something? Anyways, it's incredibly fast. It's amazing. It's even better than the Fluke. Now, there is one measurement I'm often taking for work, which my X-Tech really couldn't do and was the main reason for purchasing the Fluke. It's a speaker static resistance. When checking if a speaker is dead, shorted, or simply there, you're reading the speaker coil resistance using a multimeter. Now, this is a difficult measurement for 2 reasons. A speaker is basically a coil moving into a magnetic field. So first, when the multimeter injects a small voltage into the coil to measure its resistance, the flowing current itself will interact with the magnetic field, slightly moving the coil and getting some voltage back as a result. This voltage will confuse the multimeter. Second, because the speaker acts as a big microphone, and any loud noise in the room is being picked up by the cone and transformed into a small voltage, which, again, messes up with the measurement. Now, if I measured the speaker here on a desk, with no speaker wire and silence in the room, both meters are perfectly capable of taking a good measurement. But I tried doing the same in the real world for this review, and see what happens. So this is the fluke. The reading is not completely stable, but it's telling me that there is a 6 ohm speaker connected on the other end, which is likely an 8 ohm nominal impedance, and that the speaker is fine. This is the Kaiweets, and unfortunately, as you can see, the reading is completely unstable to the point that I really don't know what's going on the other end. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit unfair here, but I was curious to see how the Kaiweets would deal with this measurement since my X-Tech also failed this test. Now I'm thinking about it, there is one reference measurement I can do: boiling water. Now, water boiling temperature varies with pressure, and according to real-time weather forecast, today there are 1.019 bar of atmospheric pressure where I live. Under these conditions, water is supposed to boil at 100.16 degrees Celsius. Now, the Kaiweets manual gives plus or minus 1% or plus or minus 2 degrees of tolerance at 100 degrees. The greatest applies here, which in this case is 2 degrees Celsius. So the Kaiweets seems to be a bit borderline here with 97-98 degrees Celsius read. However, mine is not a laboratory, so I guess this is a pass. That being said, I did the same test the other day, and the Kaiweets was reading 95 degrees, while the X-Tech was reading 101. And on the same day, I was doing some tests with my hot air station, and at 260 degrees, there were 15 degrees Celsius difference between the two instruments. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. But tonight, they both behave well. So maybe because they know they're on camera. Now, as I got this unit for free, I think the least I can do is just to take a look inside and show you what's inside. Now, in order to open the Kaiweets, I'm gonna use these Kaiweets, I think it's called the S20. It's a 130 bits tool. Yeah, I think it's a perfect time to talk about it. There's not much to say. It's a £19.99 kit, so this is kind of a budget unit. I've used it a bit, not extensively, but I really like it. I do not expect anything premium. I mean, the handle is pretty plasticky, but it works. I mean, it's extendable. It does extend eventually, the whole shaft comes out. But it extends up to here, and there is a flexible extension here which you can attach. To be honest, I didn't have one, and this is pretty useful. Thanks Kaiweets for sending this to me. It comes with all the bits you can think of, including, you know, those silly, stupid, safe-as-sea, whatever you want to call this, bits, or these are my favorite ones. You know, when you need to open some weird device and you haven't got the bit, I really like this thing. It comes with a few options. There's a pair of tweezers, there's a plastic prying tool, and there's a few bits and bobs in here. Some plastic prying tool. There's a sucker, small one, pretty small to be honest. And this is to remove SIM cards from mobiles. Plus these 3 very small, I think there's 2 Philips and 1 Torx. I've used it a few times. I like it. It has got everything I need. I can't really comment on the quality of the material. I don't know how long they would last or anything. So far, I haven't seen anything obvious. They look like well machined. If I really want to say something I don't particularly like about things, is the case, but again, it's totally subjective. I would have liked like a soft case of some sort, but hey, you know, it doesn't really change how useful this thing is, so why not? For $19.99, this is what you get. It works. Again, do not expect a premium product for $19.99, but you get really many bits which I didn't have, so thank you Kaiweets. Now let's use this very kit to just open this multimeter. There we go. So we have two PCBs. The top PCB is where the display is connected, the electronic happens, and the bottom PCB here is where the connections are made, which I guess is a good thing. We have two big fuses here, 10 amps fuses. I don't think I'm qualified to explain here what happens. I just wanted to show how it's made inside. And again, besides some maybe debatable soldering, I don't really see anything worth mentioning. I'm sure that some of you are screaming at the screen right now. One final thing I forgot about the Kaiweets. It comes with a light. There's a little flashlight icon here. You push it, you get a light. It's pointless. I'm sorry, Kaiweets, but this is doing nothing. So what is my final opinion on the KM601 from Kaiweets? Well, it comes with some downsides, as we noticed during the review, but all in all, it's a pretty comprehensive unit. It comes with lots of features, which I really like. And all in all, considering the price range, it works decently well. So if your budget is limited, you might want to consider this unit. But as a general rule, I'd like to say that when you're investing in tools, you might want to try to invest in the best tools that you can. Good tools will last forever and will deliver excellent performance throughout their lifetime. But again, not everybody has infinite budget, so sometimes you have to compromise a bit. And I feel that for the price that Kaiweets are asking, this is a good unit. And I feel the same applies to the precision screwdriver kit. This is a complete set at a reasonable price. As a reference, at the time of shooting, the iFix similar kit is 3 times the price of the Kaiweets. And again, assuming the durability is also good, I feel this is pretty good piece of kit. Now, finally, before saying goodbye for today, I would like to ask you a favor. As this has been my first sponsored review on my channel, I would like to ask you whether you'd like me to do more if I ever had a chance, or whether you would like me to just go on with repairs and other type of videos. Now I have one more product to review. It's going to be a microscope. I would appreciate if you could let me know whether you enjoy watching this type of videos or whether you'd rather watch something else. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, as usual, I would appreciate if you could hit the like button down below and also subscribe to this channel if you like what I'm doing. For now, as usual, I wish you a great day and I hope to see you again soon here on my channel. Goodbye.